Morrow County Master Gardener volunteers would like to welcome you to our how-to series. In this series, you will learn how to properly plant a tree.
I'm Mary Tapp. I am a Master Gardener since 2001. I work with Morrow County, I work with Franklin County, I used to be with Delaware. So this is my property, and it went from a farmland to where most of the trees you're seeing we planted. If they're really huge, we didn't plant them, but other than that, over the last 20 years, we put in probably 400 trees. So I'm going to talk about correctly planting a tree. It's not a dead item, so you don't want to bury it. You have to know where the root flare is so that it's out of the ground enough that it can breathe and, be healthy. So first, proper location, not up against a house, not under wires. As you can see here, this is out in the middle of nowhere. So, as such, this is a variegated birch tree, and if she wants to look at that one, it'll get at least that big. They're both river birches. That one's a regular species. This is called Splish Splash because it is a white variegated tree. Okay, if you can, or if you need to, the day before, water the site so the soil is soft. I've been very fortunate in that we've had enough rain that it was very easy to dig. So we took off the sod for twice the size of the root ball, and then we put the dirt in the cart so I can put it back in the hole as needed. When you dig your hole, you want it as wide as you can do it, twice the size of the container or root ball, and not very deep, only as tall as where the root flare is, which we'll show later here. Okay, if you have time, or you don't know if your soil drains well, fill the hole the day before, give it 24 hours, and see how much draining. Prune the tree sparingly. Do not top it. Cut off dead branches, broken branches, and in this case, for this tree, anything that have reverted to a green tree. So now the next thing we have to do, now I've got the hole dug, and what I do, this isn't too bad, but sometimes I get some really bad clay. If you put holes or slits in the side of your hole, that'll give the tree roots to penetrate the side of the soil. Again, if it's clay, if it's really bad soil, you really, really need to do that, because otherwise the tree will hit that hard pan as such, and the roots will circle. So you have to give it someplace that it'll come about. Now you get it in the hole, you can see that it's up somewhat high because the root flare has not been cleared out, so we know where it's at. And it's better to have the root ball a little higher. Definitely do not bury this. Do not put it down. So when you're doing plants, sometimes it's called riffle the roots. And in this case, I'm taking off the extra soil, because a lot of times with the way that they grow them in a nursery, they end up with too much soil on top. Don't go too deep or you'll hurt the roots. The other thing is to go to the side to try to get them. Thankfully, this tree hasn't been in the pot long enough to get, well, it has one here. I have to get that. Get circling roots. Because the last thing you want to do, again, is to have encircling roots, because it'll strangle the tree. And we'll show you one that's good and one that's bad later. This is a grafted tree, so I have to get the graft uncovered. And in some plants, roses, peonies, you want the graft underground. But a tree, you need it up. Okay. I'm seeing some root flare here. Finally, there's one here, if you can see it. Oops. If you have a balled and burlap tree, take off all non-organic, the burlap, the wires, the twine that is, been put on it to hold it. Containers don't get that, but they can get root bound with circling roots. So you see one here, it was circling. I just pulled it out and I'm going to put it into the dirt and not encircled. So if you see any broken, diseased roots that aren't good, you can clip them off. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay. This takes a bit of time, but it's worth doing because the tree will grow better and have more oxygen and not get waterlogged. So this is up a little higher than I normally like it, but that's okay. We'll just figure it out from here. I'll show you a nature grown tree and one that was improperly planted after we're done here. So, all right. Now the next thing, if your soil is not wet, you should water it at this point. But my soil is wet, the root ball is wet. So at this point, I'm not going to worry about it, but I will water it later. Okay. Now I've taken soil out of the hole and I'm going to put it back. Remove any rocks, nasty weeds, etc. But do not add any amendments to the soil. If you do, sometimes it creates a bathtub effect in that the roots don't want to go. It's got this real nice, pretty, soft soil, and it doesn't want to go out into the native soil. We've got the soil around the tree now, and if you'll notice, it's still not real deep. You don't want it too deep. It is better to have it up a little ways and mound some soil. So my husband and I will mulch this and put a deer cage around it. This is a sweet gum. I planted it, but as a little bitty tiny baby, and I brought all the roots out, and you can see the root flares. And that's what you want with a tree, whether nature does it or you do it. And next is an oak that planted itself, and again you can see the root flares. The root flares make for a much healthier tree because they don't circle and they're coming out into the soil. Now I'll show you a tree that was planted by the previous owners that it's dying, and you can tell. We've been here 20 years and we can see more and more of the limbs dying. If you look at the base of this tree, it looks like a telephone pole. It has no root flare or very little, and at one time I dug around it and there is a big root that totally encircles this tree, which is why it's dying. And the root girdles the tree. Now when they planted this, it may not have looked bad, but even the smallest encircling of the tree, as the roots get bigger and the trunk gets bigger, they end up coming together, and it ends up blocking the transport of water and nutrients. It strangles the tree. So if you see trees like this, when they're younger If I had gotten to this property 10 years earlier, I might have been able to save it. But it's not savable now. I'm not taking it down until it either becomes a danger or it's dead. But right now it is dying. So see this flat spot here? What it's done is that girdling root down here, which I uncovered one day, but it grows back in. That is indicative of the root pressing against the cambium in the bark on the tree, and that is indicative of a circling root that's going to kill the tree.
Thank you for tuning in to Morrow County Master Gardener Volunteers How-To videos. We would encourage you to continue following us on Facebook, Ohio State University Extension Morrow County, our website morrow.osu.edu, or our blog spot u.osu.edu/morrowcountyag/. Thank you.